Please help me welcome back the director, Michael Orion Scott.
Thanks for sticking around. I'm pleased to let you guys know that Rupert and Kristin are in attendance tonight. Also, we have our editor here, Rita Sanders. So thanks a lot. We just wanted to open it up to questions that you guys might have about the film. Yes?
So have y'all ended his medication, or did you just end it when you went on the trip, or?
Yeah, his medication was also short-term treatment anyway, so they kind of coincided. We didn't end it because of the trip, but they did coincide. So he's not on anything now except gummy vitamins.
Actually, there's something to add to that, which is the shamans also never said, oh, don't go with Western medication or don't go with Western treatment. They're actually very practical. They're like, no, do all that, but just we do our thing as well, so we do both.
I think ultimately it was a joint decision, but Rupert really, I'll let him speak about it too, but Rupert had his reasons for wanting to document it, and he, invited me along, and that's always how it is really in documentary. You're kind of a guest of the people who you're documenting. Obviously, you always have to have their permission.
Michael and I had met sort of organically, and we were actually going to be doing a film about the Bushmen together, and I hadn't really talked about the Mongolian thing at all. And then after we'd been working up this Botswana idea, I sort of said, look, I'm going to go to Mongolia and do this thing. Do you want to come? But there's no money, And Michael was like, yes, absolutely. But one of the reasons was that I felt that if there was change, it really ought to be documented, because it would be a hard thing to go out there and come back and sort of make these claims if you didn't have some sort of hard proof. And then the other thing is, as you know, with autism, everything's in its infancy. So really, we just thought, well, if we could make a record of it, then maybe just add it to the body of knowledge of what's out there, because right now there's so much to understand. So really, for all those reasons.
From my perspective, it was just such an incredible story. I couldn't pass up the opportunity, as a filmmaker, to document this experience. As soon as he told me that he was going to Mongolia, it just kind of hit me in the chest, and I knew right away that we were going to have to make a film about this, and it was going to be phenomenal, just because I saw the love, the amazing love these parents had for their children, for their child, and just the fact that they were willing to go to the ends of the earth for him, and that in itself was just phenomenal. I went with a crew of only 2 other people. I was the cinematographer, and then we had Jeremy Bailey, who's the second cameraman, and we had Justin Hennard, who was the sound man in Mongolia, and so it was a really small crew, and yeah, it was a difficult process. I was filming on horseback a lot of the time, and Jeremy Bailey was as well, and then we also had Justin, who was had his boom on the horseback, and he had his mics or his sound mixers behind him, and he was tweaking them as we were riding. So it was really an awkward but beautiful experience. But really, it should have been documented, just this experience of filming this. Yeah. So we had 2. Well, we actually brought 3 cameras, and I brought about 20 batteries for each camera, which we were able to charge when we had band support. I used an inverter, which is you can plug into the lighter, the cigarette lighter, and so we were able to charge batteries when we had band support. And then when we went to the reindeer herders, we were out for a week or so without any support. So I had to bring all of the batteries that we had, and luckily they just barely lasted till the end of that trip, and we just barely made it. So yeah, it was a crazy experience. Her question was, how long did the trip take, and do you like horses now?
The trip was a month, so it was a nice, solid chunk of time. It's not that I dislike horses, it's not my thing. What can I say? I was never one of those horsey girls. They're fine. We have horses at home, and I like to feed them and pet their nose, but I'm just not into riding, so it didn't turn me into a rider. That would have been a real shamanic miracle.
by the end of it, we had about 200 hours of footage, and this was a 93-minute film. So, and all of it was wonderful. All of the footage was beautiful, and it was heartbreaking to have to make those choices. But I think we made the good choices. So.
No, I mean, it couldn't have been done without a kind of genius level editor. And
I'm very glad you brought that up.
there is. It's coming out in the US next month on the 14th, and actually on the 17th here at Book People, I'm going to do a thing with Temple Grandin. She's going to be in town, so we're going to do a thing together.
We've signed with Zeitgeist in the U.S., which is a theatrical distributor, so you should start seeing it in theaters in September. And we've also signed. Thank you. We've also signed with ITVS, which is PBS, so you'll see it on television as well. We're going to have to recut. We're going to do an hour-long cut for the television version.
She's going to do an hour.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I don't want to have anything to do with that. And then also in the BBC, we've signed for another hour-long cut that's going to be shown in the UK, and hopefully we'll get more deals around the world.
It is a schlep, it's a long way. So really what I think I might say to people is, if you don't want to schlep to Mongolia and eat lung and sheep's brains and drink tin medicine and taste of vomit, you know, do all that, then you might consider just spending a lot of time in nature, and like hours immersion in nature, because it really seems to bring the neurology, calm it down when it's overactive. Time around animals, equine therapy, there's a dozen or so stables in the area. We're now one of them, you know, that does it. And then just kind of looking for complementary, not alternative, but complementary therapies that might go alongside your orthodox therapies. Because, you know, each family is going to be different, isn't it? Each kid's different, each family's going to find their own way. And so we're not proselytizing, saying, you know, shamanism cures autism. And in fact, we're not saying anything cures autism. You know, Rowan's getting healed of these dysfunctions. It's very different to being cured of his autism, do you know what I mean? So I'd hesitate to send somebody out there with that in mind. But yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see if there's some people on top of a mountain there.
He's seen it many, many times. He watched a lot of the raw footage as we were editing, including some of those viewings at our house, and he loves it. It's funny, because I was a bit concerned about that, when he'd be traumatized. He doesn't seem to be. He seems to like it. We actually showed the film for a group of Writing for the Disabled writers over in the UK, and a little small theater in there, but he watched it, and then there was applause at the end, and he ran up in front of the stage.
And then he started talking about penguins.
And then he started talking about penguins. He seems to not have a problem. You know, I'm sure there's some autism families here, and we don't hide the fact that he's autistic in front of them. We talk about it openly because we don't want it to be this dirty little secret. He doesn't seem to have any negative reaction.
In the beginning, it was as if I wasn't even there. It was very bizarre to me, you know, as somebody who films a lot. You know, when I would put the camera on him, and I could be literally 10 inches from him, and he would just, you know, keep doing what he was doing, and it was as though I were just completely invisible. He did seem to become a bit more aware of the camera throughout the trip. And that was fascinating. You saw that like one instance where he kind of turns around and he looks directly into the camera and he kind of like puffs a little bit. So I did notice, and I think that was kind of part of the progression, was that he was starting to be able to recognize the camera for what it was, you know, as a kind of an eye that was watching him. But you guys want to talk at all about?
Well, he did go through one resistant patch. Do you remember where he started like not looking at the camera and then even hiding his face? And then that turned into a whole teasing Michael thing. Like he'd see the camera come out and he'd do that for a while. And sometimes he might be a bit annoyed, and sometimes he might be a bit playful with it. And that was sort of in the middle portion of the trip. And then again, right about the time that we started heading up the mountain to see Ghost, he kind of stopped doing that. But those are in a way two related questions, because one of the things that a lot of autistic people I seem to have noticed, is whether they're adult or whether they're kids, is there seems to be this is one of the real gifts of being around them, is there's a real kind of egolessness to that way of being, which is stunning actually when you're around it, and it's as if you're kind of continually in the presence of an enlightened master, and it really is, and you're just, you know, even if that enlightened master's putting their pants, you know, and it's you know, our grasshopper, we have, you know, your task for today. It's the same as your task yesterday. But no, it really is. So that thing of watching himself, or there's a lot of, there isn't the same kind of ego investment in it that one might, if it was me, or that I would have had when I was a kid. It's operating on a very different level. That doesn't mean I'm not aware. It just means, it just seems to mean a different kind of awareness.
So, yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. We'll be outside.